before the first rays of light can tear through the dark. Deep within the pristine sea fan labyrinths of Raja Ampat, the ocean sinks into a haunting silence. Today, we leave the human world entirely behind to drift alongside these winged giants for 14 hours. But as the day turns to twilight, they will gather for a synchronized spectacle that almost no one has ever witnessed. Take a deep breath and let the current pull you in. It is 6 in the morning, and the submerged world lingers in a state of silent anticipation. Here, entirely concealed beneath the rolling waves, lies an emerald paradise, a masterpiece of natural geological architecture. In these quiet hours of the early morning, the thick equatorial mist hangs heavily above the surface, casting an ethereal, deeply soothing glow into the abyssal depths. The delicate Epaulette shark, a creature that has evolved the astonishing biological ability to literally walk upon the sea floor using highly muscular pectoral fins, steps carefully across the shallow reef base. It seeks the comforting darkness of a deep coral overhang before the penetrating light exposes it to diurnal predators. Not far away, a masterful reef octopus, the undisputed genius of marine camouflage, creeps silently along the abrasive karst. Sensing the undeniable brightening of the oceanic atmosphere, the cephalopod squeezes its soft, entirely boneless body completely into a tiny rock fissure to rest. Gliding effortlessly over the terrifyingly deep drop-off, a massive oceanic manta ray arrives. Dictated entirely by the strict physics of marine hydrodynamics, it banks softly into the gentle morning current. It hasn't come to hunt, but to be cleansed. It waits patiently as tiny cleaner wrasses meticulously attend to its pristine dark skin, removing parasites in a beautiful display of an interspecies symbiotic relationship. Gripping tightly to the violently vibrating branches of a bright pink sea fan, is one of the ocean's absolutely smallest and most incredibly vulnerable inhabitants, the tiny pygmy seahorse. The vast coral reef ecosystem is now vibrantly awake. A majestic green sea turtle, bearing the heavy weathered shell of countless ocean voyages, paddles lazily through the cool morning currents. As the ancient reptile searches methodically for natural sponges, a highly synchronized, nervous school of Moorish idols darts swiftly through the towering limestone pillars. Deep along the dangerous, sheer edge of the drop-off, a sleek blacktip reef shark begins its relentless morning patrol. Its finely tuned, electroreceptive senses are on maximum high alert. But the blacktip is certainly not the only dangerous hunter operating here. Resting perfectly still on a flat coral head, blending seamlessly into the surrounding toxic sponges, lies the ultimate invisible ambush predator, the highly camouflaged wobbegong shark. With its flattened, rug-like body and complex branching dermal flaps around its jaw, it is an undetectable biological bear trap waiting patiently on the sea floor. As the morning progresses steadily toward 8 o'clock, the ocean current, driven by the relentless, invisible gravitational pull of the moon, begins to accelerate aggressively. Out in the open water, the majestic marine megafauna, the oceanic manta ray, banks heavily against the powerful rushing flow of the pelagic currents. Unrolling its forward cephalic fins to create a massive biological funnel, it channels thousands of gallons of plankton-rich morning water over its gill rakers every minute, executing breathtaking backward barrel rolls to maximize its microscopic harvest. In the slightly warmer, sunlit shallows, a majestic dugong grazes peacefully on the highly nutritious marine vegetation clinging to the upper limestone shelves. Pushing its massive, blubber-heavy weight forward, it physically vacuums the sandy bottom. Following closely behind is a highly vibrant clown triggerfish. This feisty little architect eagerly snaps up fleeing invertebrates, violently disturbed by the dugong's heavy feeding mechanics, violently biting and dragging heavy chunks of dead coral rubble away to uncover hidden meals. By 9 o'clock, the open water beside the steep drop-off becomes the dramatic stage for one of nature's most visually spectacular behavioral displays. A massive, hyper-coordinated school of great barracuda, numbering in the absolute thousands, swirls synchronously in the open blue void. They form a towering silver tornado, a terrifying vortex of predatory muscle. Moving deeper along the ancient coral boulders, a colossal Napoleon wrasse, heavily armored with thick scales, patrols its territory. Nearby, a hawksbill turtle violently rips a chunk of toxic marine sponge from the wall, entirely immune to its powerful chemical defenses. As the relentless sun climbs steadily toward its absolute zenith, approaching the punishing noon hour, the entire marine environment undergoes a profound transformation. The bright morning energy gives way to a heavy, flat, highly diffused, natural midday light. The ripping ocean current noticeably slackens, and ambient temperatures rise. We enter a deeply quiet midday slump. The oceanic manta ray glides toward a dark limestone overhang, desperately seeking cooling refuge, hovering utterly motionless. The Epaulette shark yawns silently and settles its sluggish body into the sand. Within a deep cavern, a giant moray eel rests completely static, drawing its serpentine body back into the dark recesses. The entire interconnected ecosystem collectively holds its breath in a pristine period of deep-sea ASMR. Suddenly, the meditative ambient gliding is abruptly pierced by a shockingly loud, rhythmic crunch of rock. It sounds like destruction, but this violent crunching is how the bumphead parrotfish actually builds the coral reef. An enormous herd of giant bumphead parrotfish swarms aggressively, biting violently directly into the solid rock. They physically consume the coral to chemically extract nutritious algae, excreting massive clouds of processed coral sand to literally construct the world-famous white beaches of Raja Ampat. A neon-striped emperor angelfish darts into the fresh limestone dust. High above this chaotic feeding frenzy, an incredibly majestic spotted eagle ray soars effortlessly through the open water, diving seamlessly into the cooler depths. Meanwhile, gliding ominously near the water surface, casting a terrifying prehistoric silhouette against the bright sky, is a colossal saltwater crocodile. This armored reptilian patrols the boundary between atmospheric air and saltwater, moving without a single sound, waiting with infinite patience. The stagnant midday lull simply cannot last forever. As the biological clock moves past 2:30 in the afternoon, the Earth turns, the massive gravitational tides shift, and the internal barometric pressure of the deep water begins to fundamentally change. The fading diffuse daylight introduces warm, deeply muted earth tones that successfully penetrate the shallow coral gardens. The surrounding water noticeably cools, and the grand ocean current finally reawakens with a renewed, incredibly powerful push against the limestone walls. Deep beneath the protective limestone karst drop-offs, the massive oceanic manta ray stirs from its deep slumber. It shakes its giant muscular wings gently in the cooling waters, banking smoothly into the newly cooling current to begin its highly anticipated, aggressive second feeding cycle. High above in the warm shallows, the majestic dugong also fully awakens, swimming directly and powerfully upward toward the shimmering surface to take a massive breath of fresh atmospheric air before descending once more. The highly vibrant clown triggerfish instantly resumes its frantic architectural work in the sand. And the hawksbill turtle actively emerges to locate a fresh, toxic sponge. As the afternoon light begins to noticeably wane, dropping steadily into a heavier, warmer glow, the true apex predators of the reef become increasingly, aggressively active. The giant great barracuda begins actively patrolling alone with calculated precision along the sheer, vertical drop-off wall. Sensing this immediate danger, a panicked school of Moorish idols darts frantically into the dense cover of a massive orange sea fan. Deep in the complex coral matrix, the masterful reef octopus acutely senses the rapidly approaching dusk. Flashing violently from its muted camouflage brown to a highly vibrant, aggressive warning red, it crawls terrifyingly over the rugged coral head. Deploying its brilliant hunting strategy, it completely balloons its webbed tentacles entirely over a small coral cluster, creating an inescapable living net to permanently trap its fleeing prey inside. Simultaneously, the sleek blacktip reef shark significantly increases its baseline swimming speed, accelerating aggressively along the dangerous underwater cliff face. Its pure nocturnal hunting instincts fully engage as it flawlessly utilizes the complex three-dimensional topography of the limestone reef to intercept the fading afternoon current. By 5:15 in the evening, the Sapphire Paradise enters its most dramatic, visually breathtaking, and biologically dangerous phase, the ultimate twilight shift. The ambient light transforms entirely, fading rapidly into soft, heavily diffused, dusty teal and incredibly deep, dark, indigo oceanic hues. The flat natural dusk light casts deeply mysterious shadows across the sandy sea floor. This is the ultimate hour of the biological changing of the guard, where vulnerable diurnal species seek desperate shelter and the terrifying masters of the dark rise. The massive herd of bumphead parrotfish swims slowly into the gaping, pitch-black mouth of an enormous limestone cave to permanently roost for the night. The majestic dugong settles its heavy body onto the sandy bottom for a deeply vulnerable sleep. The brilliant emperor angelfish wedges itself securely into a narrow crevice. As the muted teal fades rapidly to pitch-black indigo, the delicate Epaulette shark steps carefully across the broken coral rubble, officially beginning its relentless nocturnal foraging. A giant moray eel smoothly slides its muscular serpentine body entirely out of its cave, rapidly tasting the cold water to track the faint chemical scent of hidden prey. The invisible wabagong shark aggressively snaps its immensely wide jaws in a quick test bite, perfectly priming its ambush muscles. The survival of this intricate reef relies entirely on the precise temperature and the unaltered chemistry of these ocean currents. While we watch this environment function perfectly, it serves as a quiet testament to the ocean's resilience, a delicate balance that thrives only when its natural climate boundaries remain undisturbed by a warming world. But the absolute ultimate spectacle occurs out in the vast, open pelagic blue. The ocean current is now a roaring, unstoppable hydrodynamic force. Emerging gracefully from the deep indigo gloom, a massive oceanic manta ray glides into the main water channel. It is soon joined by a second, and then a third. This is a massive, highly coordinated squadron of colossal oceanic manta rays, converging perfectly to form an awe-inspiring flying formation. Soaring powerfully together in absolute synchronization against the violently ripping current, they open their colossal mouths wide to continuously filter the dense, highly nutritious twilight plankton blooms rising from the deep abyss. Framed perfectly against the rapidly fading muted teal surface light, they fly as deeply awe-inspiring oceanic silhouettes. As the mantas surrender to the night current, this sapphire paradise falls entirely silent. But the deep ocean never sleeps. Just as this reef goes dark, an alien world of bioluminescent predators is waking up in the midnight zone.